So Susan, you were saying before that there are over 4,000 remedies, and you can make them a remedy from just about anything. So I'm just wondering how you go about finding someone's one remedy.
Their true simillimum.
Their true simillimum.
Yeah. It's always the goal. It's always my intention. And I speak to my students about intention all the time, because if you have the high intention of finding the true simillimum, you'll at least find a very good close similar. If you have the attitude of, oh, well, you know, she's afraid of dying, I'll give her arsenicum album, then you probably won't be very successful as a homeopath. But here at the New York School of Homeopathy, what we do is we try to use the good available methods during case taking of looking for the right remedy. So we do use the repertory and materia medica methods. By that I mean we learn how to use the repertory, which is a compilation of data of symptoms. And we know how to look up a person's symptoms. So one of the things you do during case taking is you do make a list of their physical, emotional, and mental complaints. You choose a rubric to fit a complaint, and you look that up. I think that with acutes and really simple cases, the repertory and materia medica method works very well. And often with children. You know, kids will come in, nice, sturdy, basically healthy kids, and they'll have all the symptoms of a remedy like Calcarea carbonica, a very famous kids' remedy. And you don't really need to delve into their, you know, inner secrets and try to get them to tell you about dreams. What 3-year-old can tell you about dreams, right? In fact, they're not going to tell you a whole lot in an interview. So the repertory method works very nicely with people who are either in a less complicated state, or kids, or particularly acutes. This is when I most rely on the repertory. And then the compilation of information about those remedies that are listed in the repertory. But when things look a little more complicated than that, I like to, or even when I'm using the repertory, I like to look at the big ideas of a person's case. If someone comes in and they're talking about love all the time, and they need love, and they tell stories about how mommy left me at kindergarten and I cried every day for months and still she didn't take me out of kindergarten, and really I've never gotten over the fact that she put me in kindergarten. And, you know, she tells you that she has a very loving husband and that's the most important thing in the world to her, that she loves him and she wants to be loved. And now she's going to have a baby because she knows that baby's just going to love her so much. And she talks so much about how she needs love. You might, because of big ideas, see the remedy Pulsatilla. And so she should have other big ideas of Pulsatilla. She should be a warm-blooded person. She should be someone who's generally, oddly, warm-blooded but thirstless, not a very thirsty person. She should be someone who's always looking to be outdoors. She should be someone who feels like a plant and therefore, you know, feels sort of, she may not use the word stuck, but feels sort of stuck with her issues. My husband doesn't love me enough. For some Pulsatilla type people, there's no husband who could love you enough, right? So it may work to use the repertory and the big idea system. But if you are someone who's doing superficial homeopathy, and just because a woman talks about wanting to be loved, and you give her Pulsatilla, you'd be making a mistake, because it's very likely she's not even a plant remedy. So I don't want my students at the New York School of Homeopathy to ever just rely on the repertory and big ideas approach. And it's very important for us to learn the famous remedies, and we do. We spend the first 2 years learning as many of the famous remedies as we can. That's a very important part of our process. But it's not the only part of the process, because life is more complicated than that. Am I right? Life is very complicated. So to give every woman who talks about needing to be loved Pulsatilla would be a huge mistake. At the New York School of Homeopathy, we also study kingdoms and groupings, especially in the second year, right? That's what we do in the second year. So we study the lac remedies, the milk remedies, which are mammal remedies. We study the sea remedies. We might study specific plant families, like the ranunculi, which is where Pulsatilla comes from. We might study, we start in around March and start studying the mineral kingdom, and we group that in terms of rows, right, and columns, and ideas, themes for the rows and columns. But we also look at remedies that are made from natrum, right, from salt. So we look at the various natrum remedies, we look at the various potassium remedies, magnesium remedies, right? We look at the noble gases as a grouping. We look at many remedies as well as we can in terms of the group they belong to. Because a sea remedy is so different from a mammal, right? A sea plant is different from a land plant. So this is what we try to start in the second year with all three kingdoms and specific groupings. Because as you group things, it's going to make it easier to recognize that that's the kind of remedy that a person needs. It's still not the specific remedy. So when I'm looking at a patient, I might first be looking probably at kingdom. And then if there's a subgrouping, I'll be looking at subgrouping. And if I can do it simply by looking at the repertory, I will. If somebody comes in and they are a clear Pulsatilla remedy, I'm going to give them Pulsatilla. I'm not going to go looking for some crazy plant somewhere. I'll just give them Pulsatilla because, of course, it wouldn't be a famous remedy if it wasn't coming up in our materia medica a lot, right? But we have two more systems that we teach at the school. These are systems of case taking. And one is Rajan Sankaran's sensation system. And we find that that's worked very, very nicely in many cases. Now, again, no matter what system you're using, you have to be very careful and particular about what you're trying to do. You shouldn't be superficial with a sensation system either. It should fit the totality of the remedy, fit the totality of the grouping, and the totality of the patient herself or himself. You could go wrong if you don't take the entire case very carefully. So then there's even another method that we've been using and I've been teaching, which Divya Chabra has come up with, and I tend to call it experiential homeopathy. I don't think she's actually named the system yet. But what she's trying to do is get to your real experience in the world through your subconscious. So we're trying not to keep you on a conscious thinking level. We're trying to get you to let go and just keep describing. Now, we saw this yesterday in clinic. It was very beautiful because we've spoken to this patient before, and he's a thinker. But yesterday, he let go. He closed his eyes, he let go, and really his subconscious came forward. The words didn't really change, but the way he talked about them became much more image-oriented, right? And we started to get a feeling of his experience in the world, which we know relates to some substance in our world. That's what the true simillimum is all about. Sometimes what I call experiential homeopathy is the easiest way to get there, because when you get someone to really relax, and as I say, you sort of massage their subconscious, they reveal from their subconscious a lot of nonsense that you find repeats over and over again, and repeats when they're speaking consciously. And that can help you find their very particular source. Okay? Does that help? Thank you.